Hi, I'm Judith. I'm a Canadian. I'm over 80 years old as of yesterday, over 80. Um, so in this channel, I talk about things I've learned in my 80 some years and what about how to create a really happy and satisfying and fulfilling life. And I want to pass that on. It's a way, maybe by telling stories about my life or the things that have happened and what I've learned and the things I've learned to do, I can help some young people, I hope, some older people, some people who are stuck, some people who, like me, have ADD or ADHD. Not everyone. I don't think that my experiences are necessarily um, useful to everybody because I'm humble enough to think that maybe I had, some things going for me that other people don't. Maybe other people had challenges that were greater than mine. But I do have some things and I offer them in a spirit of saying, take what you like and leave the rest. If anything's helpful, use it and enjoy it. And I hope that it helps. And I hope you leave me a comment to tell me that it's helped. So today, this is actually a remake. I number the episodes just because I'm a little anal and I like to be able to say, oh, an episode number such and such. I talked about whatever. And episode 3 is about my task list and how I keep my life in order using tasks. And I'm going to delete that video because I watched it the other day and frankly, it bored me to death. I was like, I read something once that said the first few videos you make are going to be really terrible, and that one that one was. So I'm taking down episode 3. I'm going to leave episode 4, which is on to-do lists, task lists for daily stuff. But it makes a reference to a previous video about my big master list of tasks, and that video isn't going to exist once I get this one posted. So I'm going to do another try at this. I'm not sure what episode number it will have by the time it gets posted, maybe 10 or 11 up in that range. And I'm going to try to do this in a way that is not as detailed and as boring and as seemingly overwhelming as the way I made it feel the first time. So I'm going to talk about keeping my life in order, keeping one's life in order using lists, using task lists. And also creating your happy and successful life by using task lists. Because I do two things. Really, that my daily task list, which I talk about in episode 4, is the way that I kind of keep my life in order. But I also do that and keep my focus, my ADD distractible focus on the things I want to accomplish by using a whole bunch of lists. And I'm going to show you what they are and go over them very briefly. The whole thing about this, though, is that it took me decades to work up this system of this whole book of lists that I keep. It doesn't take me very long to keep it up, but it does involve some work. And so I would say to you, again, take what you like and leave the rest. If something seems helpful to you, use it. And if it seems like totally overwhelming and like way too much, then just forget about it. And the time may come when that kind of list will help again. So I admit I'm sort of over the top with this. So I keep track of my life because my head is always a jumble and I'm always afraid I will forget things. Things will move out of my head, or else I don't get much peace because of all the things whipping around in my head all the time. And so I keep a book of lists, and I buy these hardcover books. I buy them online or at Staples. Can be different sizes, but basically it's just, let me find a page. It's just like a lined book, lined pages, and I call it very, not very originally or cutesy or anything. I call it my book of lists, and this one goes from October 2025, and it will go for about 9 months to a year, depending on how detailed I get and how many pages I goof up and rip out. This one has perforated pages, so I can rip them out pretty easily when I start writing a list and then I've forgotten a whole bunch of things and it's all messy and I just tear it out and do it again. Okay, so in this book, I kind of have, and I recopy this each time. My partner says, why don't you just put it on computer and just, print it off? No, because that very act, and I've talked about this in other videos, the very act for me of taking something from my head and taking it down through my body and out the pen at the other end helps me to get it from up here to, I think, to my subconscious, but also into my gut, so it's more gut feel, but also it helps to get it out of my head so it's not swirling around there, and it's just down on paper, and I know that it's there, and I know I won't forget it. I can see the reminder of it anytime, and paper and pen is really easy for me to look up. So what I have, and I'll just tell you briefly about this. Episode 2, I talked about touchstones, the 7 things that I use as really, really high areas of achievement, areas where I want to do things with my life. Physical health and well-being, financial order and well-being, material order and well-being, positive, enriching, loving relationships, experiences, leisure, learning, and adventures, contribution, and spiritual connections. Those are my current ones. And I had different ones when I was younger. I had ones about balance and about work, career, and so on. The material order and well-being now is about clearing out and paring down and simplifying, because as you can see from the background here, I got lots of stuff around me. And these bookshelves you see, I think on this one you're seeing about 1 bookshelf, but there are 3 of them here and 3 more further down the room. So a fair library, and that's nothing to the library I used to have before I downsized to a bigger house in a smaller downsized from a big city to a smaller city. So I basically, what I do is, in some of those areas of the touchstones, I have things that I have to accomplish. In other areas, like financial order and well-being, there isn't anything very major that I have to do by way of projects now. Things are pretty much run on a system, on a process. And so I don't have special lists of things to do for that. I just class it in a general class of things called order, keeping order. So I just sort of maintain things. But when it comes to material order and well-being, for instance, I've got a lot to do. I've got really a lot of areas where I need to pare down. And so I have lists about all of these things, my major goals. So I have my major life goals, things I want to accomplish. I then, for instance, physical health and well-being, I will have lists of the things that are important for me to do, and it's a kind of a lifetime list. I have things about my home, decoration, maintaining the home, purchases I know I'm going to have, major purchases I'd have to make in the next number of years, things I want to improve about it, and also things that I need to keep documented. I learned that it's really helpful when you come to sell a house to have a work log of anything that you've done to maintain the home. You know, I got a new roof. What year did I get that? So I try to just make a note of those things in a kind of work log. I don't always get the little things, but the major big things I get. And then I have lists of things that I want to sort out, my collection of books, the music collection, all the DVDs, the cassette tapes, all kinds of things, photographs, print photos and digital photographs. I have a list of daily habits that I want to establish and maintain and develop. And I have way more things on the list than I actually do. For instance, I'm getting pretty good about washing my face. Now, that's not to say that I never wash my face, but using a special face wash to wash my face as opposed to just soap and water. Using makeup remover, because you can see I wear makeup, and so I use makeup remover. Creaming my face. I'm getting better at those things. I'm not so good yet at putting cream on my body so my skin gets dry, and I'll get to those maybe eventually. So I just have a whole list of habits that I want to develop, some about nutrition, some about my spiritual life, prayer and meditation, for instance. I go on streaks when I do it and streaks when I don't, and so having that as a habit. I have lists of things that I need to do for daily life to keeps things in order. I mean, there are things that I just do regularly, the laundry, the ironing, because I still iron, cooking, menu planning, errands, the things you just have to do. it's a little bit of overkill, but I kind of have a list of those. I have a list of things I would like to do or I could do for leisure, learning, enjoyment, travel, and adventure. It's a huge, long list. It includes travel things. It includes, I don't know, swimming, walking, hiking, golf, bicycling. I've been on my bicycle for 2 years, but I want to get there this summer again. Things to learn, um, sitting outside, quiet time, whatever. Most people don't have to make lists like this. you know, I just feel like if I don't have it down on the list, it swirls around up here, or I might forget about it entirely, so it's there for me. I have an A list, a list of my relationships, my A list, the people I most care about, and also some other people that I try to stay in touch with, even though they might not be on my A list, particularly people who are elderly, um, and uh, and people that I can see who are in proximity that I can see fairly often. I have a list of legalities. It's not very big anymore because things are kind of in order there. Anything like, your will, your estate planning, your whatever that you need to do, legal things that need to be done or taken care of, powers of attorney, all that kind of stuff. I have a list of things that I would like to complete before I die. For legacy and contribution. Now, some of those things are contribution that I make while I'm living, like making charitable donations, spending time doing volunteer work. I tend to do project volunteer work, which is short and time limited, as opposed to ongoing something once a week all the time. I'm just better at projects than I am at that kind of ongoing process. But some books that I started or that my husband and I did at one point that we have never published. A book that I published, but I haven't gotten rid of all the copies. I'd like to do something with those copies, give them away or something. I might do a video on that one time and offer them free to people for the price of postage. I started some family trees one time. I never finished them. If I do, I do. If I don't, I don't. That they were not going back in ancestry, they were going forward from my grandparents, trying to keep track of all the people that are related to me now. And these YouTube talks are part of that. So it gives you an example of the sorts of things that I do in lists. And now I've come to a list that I think might be very helpful. My daughter has said that she sometimes suggests it to her clients. She does some counseling and energy healing, and she said she sometimes suggests this to her clients. And that's a list of seasonal tasks or monthly tasks. And they can be financial tasks, like the taxes are due at a certain time, I've got to pay tax installments, whatever. They can be physical tasks, like changing the filters on the furnace, um, setting up. They can be setting up things for order. For instance, I've got a January task to set up the calendar for January priorities and the calendar for January. Actually, I usually do that in December. Taking down Christmas decorations, putting up Christmas trees, garden things in May and October that have to be done around the house. Um, uh, mm, Putting the dishwasher cleaner things, tablets in, and cleaning the dishwasher once a month. Changing the furnace filters, I mentioned that. Changing the filters, the water filters on the refrigerator for the water, the ice maker, a couple of times a year. So I do that by month, and I have a list. Sorry, and I just like, for instance, there's an April list, and I have, although this journal started in October 2025, for some reason I wrote down 2025, so April had already gone by. But when we get to April of 2026, I will be marking things down, and then maybe this journal will go to 27. I don't know. And I check things off as I get them done, and I find that really helpful. Those tasks then translate to my monthly or quarterly or daily task lists, so that I tend to do them. Otherwise, my life, that the fridge suddenly needs a new filter and I don't have filters on hand, and or I don't get around to it for weeks and weeks. I forget about it. So I just try to keep up with those kinds of seasonal tasks, and that I find that keeping my life in order helps me to have a happy life because it reduces a lot of stress and it prevents messes. I'll talk more about preventing messes in some other video. Um, but the other thing that having these lists does is that it keeps me focused on the things I really want to accomplish, those touchstones, the projects that I have to do under the touchstones. Video 1 is about my intentions for the year, the 4 top things that I want to, I have an itchy nose. It means I'm going to kiss a fool, apparently. My mother used to say she was full of superstitions. At any rate, I won't be kissing anyone particularly. There are no fools in my life except maybe me. I guess I could kiss myself. So anyway, I have these lists, and they help me to focus on the things that I need to do. So I have a list of priorities for the year. So this is 2026, and if I started this in 2025, in October 2025, but I got a page for 2026, and then I have actually a list of 2026 priorities. My top 3 or 4 touchstones, they're my intentions, they're my top 4. And then under each of those, I have a list of the things that I need to do for those. And then I have some other things, plus some things to do around the home, some learning and leisure and legacy tasks I want to get done in the year. And then after the yearly list, I have a quarterly list of priorities. So priorities for quarter 1 of 2026, which is where we are now. And then I have a list of priorities for January of 2026 and February and March now. And in addition, after that list of priorities for the month, and again, I'm taking things from my master list of things to do, from my seasonal list, from the general order keeping things I always have to do, and I make a list of things that are most important for me. Let me just flip here. Just to give you an example, in the March priority list, my goals are, my partner, whom I've mentioned in other videos, broke his hip last month, and he's recovering at home nicely now, but I still have to drive him around for another week or so. And then my 4 things: self-care, clear, connect, contribute. So those are my goals. And then I have the top projects within those. And then I have a list. What do I have to do for him? What do I have to do for my lifestyle, my health, my self-care? What do I have to do about clearing? What do I have to do about these YouTube videos, which are part of my project for contribution? And then I have some other lists. What people do I need to connect? Do I really want to connect with this quarter? I have a lot of people in my life. I'm going to be talking about that at some point. And because I like more of everything, I just collect people as friends, and I try to keep them. And I really care about a lot of people. And so people pop into my mind. I say, oh, I must call that person this quarter. Sometimes, because I have a lot of people, I don't talk to them all the time. But maybe I'll call someone, or I'll write, or we'll do a video call or something. And then I have a list of order and seasonal tasks for the month. And then I have the weekly tasks to be done. Right now we're on the week of Monday, March 9th, to Sunday, March 15th of 2026. And I have a list. And again, it's got my top 5 things, which are pretty much to do with, I don't have clearing on there because I'm too busy with the other things to be done. I've got a list of the things that are scheduled for the week. The things I need to do for my partner, things I need to do with regard to health and my and habits, and then order and seasonal things, and people on the next page, people that I need to call or do something with for this week. And again, that keeps me focused. I try to keep that list pretty much up to date. Things get canceled. For instance, I thought I was going to have something at 3:15 on Wednesday. I did not. And it just gets crossed out. Things get, my line dance teacher fell a couple weeks ago, and so the class was canceled. So I cross it out. I don't get to cardio class. I don't know, because I'm not well or I slept in. Um, and so it it just helps keep me on track. And then I use that list to create, and you can see a lot more about this in episode 4, which is going to still be up, about what I have in my to-do planner, which is my daily planner. These lists, other than the fact that I spend a few hours recopying the big master lists every 9 months to a year, they don't actually take me very long to do at night. I just go to the weekly list. It's usually just before dinner or just after dinner, or even just before I go to bed. I will just grab my books. I've got several books. And I think by the time you see this video, I will have talked about all of them. So I have my book of lists, this black book. I have my to-do planner. I have my gratitude journal, and I have a habit tracker calendar thing. And I fill those out, and it takes 10 minutes, 15 at very most. I'm not even sure it takes 10 minutes usually to do it. So I look at this book and I check off anything on this list that I've done today. Eventually I'll get back to looking at the list for the month and checking it off, usually when I'm doing the list for the next month. But I just check off anything on this that I did, and then I look at my to-do planner for the day, which sometimes has things, it has things on it like cook such and such for dinner, which wouldn't be on my week's list usually, um, or other things that have come up during the day, or that I've noticed that I have to do that I didn't notice before. Today, for instance, the recycle boxes got driven away in the wind. The wind blew them down the street, and I've got to go looking for them as soon as I finish making this video. Um, and that wasn't on my task list for today, but I will write it on at the end of the day that that's something that I did, especially if I'm successful. I hope I am. I want to have to buy new ones. They have my address on them, so I'm hoping someone will find them and return them too. Okay, so I do that. I check things off on my daily list. I add there a gratitude, what my water intake was, what my fitness intake was, any other notes from the day. And then I check off the habits that I'm tracking to whether I did them or not. And I also write a gratitude list, because that keeps me in really a happy place, seeing the blessings of life instead of the problems or disappointments. So I'd encourage you to use any or all of those lists to keep track. Again, I'm sorry about episode 2 going away, but I hope this is a better, faster, less boring one. You can put anything you want in your lists, like detailed stuff or not detailed stuff. And if you can run your life without lists and still have it be happy and successful, then more power to you. I wish I were you in that respect, but I'm not. And so I do what I need to do. So just again, as I said, take what you like and leave the rest. If this helps, then please use it. And I know that I find it very helpful for me. So until the next time, keep moving forward, keep trying to live with intention, looking on the bright side of things, and know that you have within you, no matter who you are, no matter what your challenge is. And I admit that my challenges have not been more than the everyday challenges of life. I have not had extraordinary challenges. But please remember that all of us have it in us to do more than we think we're capable of, and that some of these tools and techniques can really help. So until then, until the next time, take care.